Boy, there is a lot to cover, so strap in. So let me just get the shilling out of the way. Please support the other channels if you can. Please consider supporting this channel via channel memberships and through other means if you can. So with that out of the way, let us get right into it. So for a while, we didn't know what Puffy was being charged with. Now the charges are being made official. The essence is he's being charged with racketeering. There's a lot of other charges, and they're pretty wild, including arson. So he's being charged with quite a number of crimes. And the district attorney who's going to be prosecuting the case, who is in New York, I'll just make a very quick footnote. It's not next door to me, but I actually live close to New York, so I can actually get there, within a certain time period. So if you guys consider supporting the channel, I may be able to take field trips to New York to do some more research. In any case, this is the Southern District, and because this is a federal case, they can't have cameras in the court. There are drawings of P. Diddy. Apparently, he just showed up kind of in plain clothes. He brought his family to plead for bail and being allowed out, but the judge ruled no, no, you have to stay in detention. And apparently, he's being held in Brooklyn. And it's a very weird history with that detention center. I'm not going to get into it now, but apparently it's a very troublesome facility. So he is not in a quote nice detention cell. He is in a very iffy situation at the moment. These guns, where apparently the serial number was filed off. So certainly in some of these charges, it is rock solid. They have genuine photographic forensic proof. And then we have that shocking tape of him hitting one of his ex-girlfriends, Ventura. And whether she will testify, we don't know, but it does seem they have a lot of information from the raid they had months and months ago. There's this thing that's becoming a bit of a joke. I will get into it in other videos, but yes, they found 1,000 tubes of lubricant. Yeah, make of that what you will. So apparently, he had a lot of these orchestrated parties and was caught not just breaking the law. There's also charges of forced labor, right? Not paying people properly, intimidating particularly witnesses and victims, systemic accusations of him constantly trying to intimidate people, make sure they don't come forward, they don't testify, trying to bribe people. Apparently, in one case, he tried to bribe some hotel officials with just huge amounts of cash. So it's all very troubling. And we've had these rumors for a long time with P. Diddy, and they've been all over the map about what he's up to and how far and extensive it is. And again, this isn't necessarily all the crimes, it's just the crimes they found enough evidence to bring forward to charge him with. And someone did ask, well, if you had all this information before, why do this now? Why is he on trial now if you had this information for a while? Because these charges go back decades and decades. In fact, some victims, I'm pretty sure, go back to the 1990s. So this is even before he became really big with Bad Boy Records, Notorious B.I.G., and that era of music. So this is him just as a college student. So he has quite a long track record of just this pattern of violence, intimidating people, and so on and so forth. So this goes back quite a long time, but it's only now that he's being formally charged. And again, I want to correct people. People think this is a state issue. This is not a state issue. This is not him facing New York, technically. This is him facing the federal government. So it's really the U.S. government versus Sean P. Diddy Combs. And some people, to give them credit, like Aubrey, have been very public about how bad and awful P. Diddy was and has been. However, for the most part, when people go public, yes, they do make some strong accusations, but they're usually about business. There are some people who have alleged P. Diddy's role in some pretty controversial issues, including the deaths of B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur. I still think we don't know all the facts there, but yes, there is some credible evidence he may have played a role, or at the very least, didn't protect these people. So whether he actually, quote, hurt them, we don't know, but he definitely did suspicious things to make them more vulnerable. And yeah, there's a big myth that him and B.I.G. were good, close friends. They were not. They were not. That was all a media construct. It seemed like they knew each other and respected one another, but they were not really close friends. They didn't grow up together. So overall, these are very devastating accusations. However, if you did listen closely to the press conference, there were some things that didn't ring true. For instance, in a lot of these cases, were people being hired? And yes, it may have been illegal, but were they being forced to do anything? It's a little bit fuzzy in a few places, presumably as we move forward when we get who is going to be a witness in the case and more tangible pieces of evidence, we'll find out more about what the case really is. There's also a question whether there will be a trial, because again, if there is a good plea bargain, it could be P. Diddy will take the plea bargain. Obviously, given the severity, he has to serve a little bit of time in jail. But again, if it's light enough where he gives them tangible information for other things, because remember, P. Diddy is hooked up with a lot of people. He's met a lot of people. He's seen a lot of things. He has a lot of people he could basically betray. And it's a lot of people. We're talking Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher. That's just the tip of the iceberg. All these musical industry people like Russell Simmons. It's just a lot of people he knows. Even Donald Trump. There are a lot of photos of him and Donald Trump. He does have a lot of leverage if he wants to help the federal government on certain cases and he's willing to give information to help out in his own case. He does know a lot of people. He's been to so many events, so many parties. He's hosted so many parties. Again, it would be shocking if he does not have quite a few secrets of his own that he could divulge and not even divulge the full thing in order to help himself. It's a lot of question marks whether there even will be a trial, but I suspect there will be. I suspect his lawyers are really going to be vigorous, at least in the early stages of denying all the charges and trying to get the case dismissed. But given that he was denied bail, which is pretty extraordinary because, again, it's usually normal for you to be granted bail, but the fact that they did not grant, even after he offered his $50 million mansion as collateral, they said, no, no, we don't trust you. Even after his family spoke on his behalf, don't trust them either. In fact, his son has been implicated with some of these crimes. So it's just a very devastating portrait all around. Will he have enough money and power to really see this thing through? Well, even if he did, which I don't see that happening, but even if he managed miraculously to beat all these charges, there are still now 8 formal lawsuits, and I'm sure there are more on the way. So even if he beats all these charges, he could still be charged at the state level. He could still be vulnerable to many other lawsuits. At the very least, he's going to face, maybe a dozen lawsuits and other criminal charges, even if this one fails. It's not looking too good for him. And yes, Puffy is wealthy and he is well connected. However, these charges are very serious and they run so many different places that it's an incredibly broad scope for them to investigate and look at things. And remember, his homes have already been raided. Several other people have been arrested. And they did kind of hint that a few people have come forward very recently. So presumably they have certain bits of new information they did not have before, and that was strong enough to charge him. So it's not looking too good for the man. And I have always been kind of mixed on Puffy. I mean, the best thing you could say for him is he does some work for charity, but given the Tupac Biggie dilemma, as well as so many other things he's been involved in and credibly linked to, not just Scientology, the Nation of Islam, he's just been tied to a lot of shaky people, a lot of iffy things throughout his entire career. So this is like chickens coming home to roost, of course. I mean, this is just a guy who's been involved with so many suspicious things for so long. It's kind of just shocking. Why did it take so long? I don't know. I don't know. He has been charged before. If you have a bit of a longer memory, you'll know that decades ago he faced a massive trial over an incident in a club where allegedly he pulled a gun and created this massive commotion. And that was 20 years ago. He managed to beat the charges there, but so he has faced this before, just facing a really tense trial period, but that was at the state level. I don't think he's ever been charged by the federal government ever before. So this is pretty extraordinary by many, many measures. And given the tape and given actual pieces of physical evidence, I don't see how he's not going to be able to be found guilty, at least on some charges. But again, we're still early here. We have to find out who the jury is, what their composure is, who the judge is, what is the history of the prosecutor. There's a lot of question marks, but still, it is not looking good. Now, obviously, if you follow this channel for a while, it's a Scientology angle and the cult angle I'm more interested in. And that's definitely a very big kind of ticking time bomb in the background because Ashton knows Diddy for decades and he's been linked to Danny and the Scientology people for a long time. It's not just Danny, it's the Masterson family and a lot of other Scientologists. Like Ashton just knows these people and presumably because again, it's not just Ashton. Danny has been photographed with P. Diddy quite a few times. So P. Diddy has shown up for quite a few Scientology events, or at least events where tons of Scientology celebrities are all around. So it'd be stunning if Scientology does not have a file on him and that Ashton and Danny know certain things about P. Diddy. In fact, I would not think it's beyond reason that perhaps Danny has spoken to the federal government, and we're going to see some changes perhaps in his prison. There's a lot of question marks about what will happen forward. I mean, it's just so many angles and tangents, but I will mainly focus on the cult angle, but there are many other angles here, and it's just it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm only keeping it to the basics because there's a lot more to report on. So please support the channel. I will try to give you updates as best as I can. Thank you for listening.